Hi guys, welcome back to CRD. In learning web development with using Flask, this is the sixth video, and in this video we are going to learn how to use SQLite database in Flask. Flask. The important thing is here that we are using the Flask web development on Google Colab. So if we will face any of the problem in using database, then this video will help you that how can you use the database onto Google Colab. So let's continue. So for that I will use here SQLite. SQLite is pre-installed with Flask. So if you are using on Google Colab, then there is no necessary to install any of the database like MySQL or MySQL DB or PyMySQL, etc. So you can use the SQLite here. If you are making this application on your desktop, then you can use another database tools also. So here we will use SQLite so that we will not have to install anything. So I'll just import SQLite, sorry, import SQLite 3, and now I will have to give here the path of our database. What will be the path of database? Where will be our database file saved? Okay, so I will save my database file on the same folder we are working on. Our Flask collab.ipynb file is here, so I will use the same path. Okay, so our path is this one. So what will be our path? As you can see on the above code, there is a static folder and templates folder. So this is the path where templates and static folder exists. So I will use the same thing for our DB folder. Okay, that means database folder. So this will be the database folder. Okay, now we will use the SQL database to connect. So for that, I'll use a variable called con, and con, then I will call SQLite theory dot connect. Okay, and here I'll pass the database name. So I will firstly pass DB folder which we have analyzed here, and I will pass a database file name with extension DB. So suppose my database file name is my database dot db. Okay, so this is the path. This is giving error because I have to give like this. Okay, so now I have to use the cursor. So I will have to create a cursor after connecting. I will have to create the cursor. So I'll use here cursor variable, and here I will use con dot cursor. So now we have the database connection and the cursor. Now we can add the query. Okay, add the query here. And what will be our query? As you can see here, there is no database called mydatabase.db into this folder. Okay, so if you will call this one, then this will create a database named this if it is not existing. Okay, if it will exist, then it will directly connect, but if does not exist, then it will create this one. So for the first time, if you are running this one, then you will have to make a table also in that db, so that in that table you can save the username and password. As you can see in the previous, and if you have if you have seen our previous video, then in the previous video we have learned how to use the login forms here, right? We have understood that how can we uh, pass HTML values into our Flask. So for now, we will just save some random values here so that we can match the database values with HTML form values, and then we will allow the user to log in. So under the query, we'll have to create a query. So I'll name the query like this: create table query. Okay, and it will be a string. So I will make a triple quotes a string because it will be multi-line. And now I will create like this. Here in the query, you will see that all the things will be approx capital letter. Okay, so this is most important. Use this capital letters. Create table if not exist, because if there is a table into the database, then it does not to be overwritten. So I will use here create table if not exist, and I will name the table that is users. This will be our table name. Okay, and I will add some of the columns there. So under this we'll make three columns. First will be id, which will be integer and primary key, and I will make it auto increment. And second one will be username, and third one is password. Okay, it is simple. So I'll make as like this id, and it will be of integer type, and then I will assign it as a primary key. And next I will show here that it will be auto increment, so that we won't have to give all the times this its value. Okay, so it will be auto increment, and next will be username, and it will be also text, and also not null. You will have to give the values. It is necessary to give the value for username, and also this will be same for password. Okay, it will be small. I'll make it a small. Okay, it is not necessary to make it a small. You can make capital also, but just for identifying that this is not the code, this is our values. So I'll make it small. So now we have the query for create table. Now I'll have to execute this one. I'll have to execute these values. So I'll use cursor. We have made the cursor from this line. So I'll use cursor dot execute. Okay, and I'll pass here this query. So I have to execute this query. That's why I have passed cursor dot execute this one. Okay, but now if you have created the table, then you will have to pass some values into it, so that when you will log in, then you will have to match the with the values, because now right now it is empty. So I'll have to insert one more query here, and that will be insert query. Okay, that is insert query, and under this query I will add an insert query. So insert query will be like this: insert into my table. What will be in the table name? Users. Okay, and what are the values in which what were the column names where I have to pass the values? My column names which are not null are username and password. So I'll pass username and password. And now I'll have to assign the values into this. So I'll use like this select, and under select I will add a question mark for username, question mark for password, and I will insert the username and password, but if username is already there, then it does not to be inserted again because it will be a copy. So I will use here as where clause. So I'll use like this, where not exists, where not exists what username. Password can be matched, but username cannot be matched. Okay, it must be unique. You can pass here username unique text not null also, but here I am passing. There are multiple ways to achieve the query. So here I will pass here that select one from my table where username, sorry, it is a typo, where select one from users where username will be, I will pass the value of the username here. That's why I have used again the question mark. Okay, and now it is closed. Now my insert query is completed. Now I have to pass the values for these three question marks. So I'll pass the values when I will execute the cursor. So I'll use here cursor dot execute, and here I'll pass firstly the insert query. Okay, and the next value I can pass the values here. So I'll make a variable for these three question mark values. So I'll make it as user data. You can get these user data from any of the HTML form and save it here, right? And in this way you will make a registration form. So suppose if my username is like this, a tuple, and under tuple the first name first will be my username. Okay, so I will pass like this, Pawan 1. Okay, suppose this is my username, and second one will be a password 12345. Okay, like this. Now I have to pass here Pawan 1 again because this is the third question mark where I have to pass the username. So I'll pass the same thing, Pawan 1. So this is the user data, and I have to pass the same thing here as the values. This is the query and this is the value under this. So now it will be executed, and now after completing all the execution we'll have to commit the connection. Okay, because after commission it will be executed successfully and your data will be saved. So I'll use con dot commit, so it will be committed. Now after commission you can also see that your data is saved or not. Okay, if your data is saved, then you must have a proof. Okay, so let us make a another query. Suppose I have another query as select underscore query, and it will be a simple query for selecting all the data from users table and it will be shown. So I'll make like this, select asterisk means all from users table. So all the data will be executed from users and it will be shown. If I will do like this, I'll use the cursor dot execute, and here I will pass select query. Okay, and now I'll get all the values from this cursor. So I'll use uh, rows is equal to cursor dot fetch all. If you will use here fetch one, then there will be only one value to be fetched. But if you will use your fetch all, then all the data will be fetched. Okay, so I will use cursor dot fetch all. So now all the rows, that means all the values from the users table is now here, and now I will use the for loop for row in rows print row. print row. So all the data will be printed here if I'll use this one. Okay, so that's it. Okay, now let's execute this and see if it is working. So as you can see here that it is saved here 1 power 1 1 2 3 4 5. Now let's save another values with user another user, and it will be user 2. Okay, and the password is suppose 1235 again, but the user 2 is next one, so it will be error because it is not right there. So I'll save user 2. It will be user to save the user 2 again. So now as you can see that 1 power 1 1 2 3 4 5 is the first one, and second one is user 2 1 2 3 4 5. Okay, so we have two values here. Now let's copy the previous cell here. Let's us copy this one. Okay, and now let's paste it here. Okay, so this is the same thing which was in previous one, but now right now we will use this logic to match the values. Okay, this will allow us to match the values from our database. So at the place of matching from these two values, user and password, PSSW, will match from database into the login. Okay, so I will use the same thing here. So I will import firstly SQLite, sorry, import SQLite 3, and here we'll use the query instead of these things. Okay, so let us get all the values from our users table. Okay, so I'll delete these two things here, and if request.method equal to post, then we will have username and password from the HTML form, and after that we'll use this same thing here. So I will copy this one, and after this one I'll match, so I'll paste it here. So now our DB folder is here. We can paste it just below the static folder. Okay, so now our connection is here with my database.db, and connection.cursor is here, and now we'll have to write the query to get all the values from the database where this username and password exist. If username and password, these two things will be matched from our database, then we'll allow the user to uh, go to the page2.html. Okay, so our query will be here like this: select all from users. Okay, where where username is the past username and password equals the past password. Okay, so our query is here, and let us pass this thing in a query called query. Okay, so our query is here, and now let us execute this query. So I'll use the cursor again, cursor dot execute, and I'll pass here firstly the query, and then we will pass a tuple of username and password. Okay, this will be the username, and this will be the password which will come from our HTML file, right? So our first is query value is query, that will be the query, this is the query, and the second one is the tuple of username and password. Okay, so it will be executed. So after that we'll have to get the result, what will be there into this cursor dot execution. So I'll use the one value, use one cursor dot h 1. So there will be one value, one row value, and it will be saved in the result. If it is exists, if it exists, then we will allow the user. So I will pass the same all the things, and I will pass here. I will just delete these things, and if we will, if there is result, that means if there is any user with the same password, then we will allow the user with these conditions. Else, wrong username and password. Please try again. All the things will be same. Okay. So done. Now let us execute this one and let's try if it is working. So this is here. Let's go into the URL. Let's visit the site. Okay, everything is fine right now. And let us pass some random values and try to log in. So there is a error. Let us check what is the error right now here. Dot cursor execute has no attribute. Oh, sorry, my mistake. There is a code mistake. I have not seen. There will be h1 but not gauge. Sorry, h1. Okay. Okay, let us try again. Try random values. So there is either wrong username and password. Let's try with the values which are in database. So our values into the database are two. First one is pawan 1 1 2 3 4 5, and second one is user 2 1 2 3 4 5. Let's try first one, pawan 1 and 1 2 3 4 5, and let's try to log in. Okay, done. Welcome to homepage pawan. Okay, let us try with the user, second user, and that will be user 2, and password is the same. Yeah, fine. Okay, so it is working. Okay, so I hope guys you have enjoyed this video. In the next video, as promised, we'll come with the session. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.